Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Brandon,
Hi, hi.
Kestrel,
Hello.
and Cain.
Hello, hello.
And we are here to talk about anime, which I say every single time. But this time it is for truth, because we are covering the end of the 2024 winter season of anime, which sees the end of two of our favorite shows about girl bosses, who are not like evil girl bosses, but like honestly, like I want to buy them a drink, girl bosses. And yeah, but do we have any news since last week? I know we covered all the news last week.
Yeah, a couple of things that I did want to mention here. The first one, very relevant to last week's big news. Actually, since that happened, Toriyama passing and everything, and I was thinking about the impact of Dragon Ball, and having just come back from Japan, where I went to, a couple theme parks there, and at USJ they had like a bunch of Demon Slayer stuff, and it made me think like, why aren't there more like anime focused theme parks at this point, because it's so huge. And of course Ghibli has theirs now, which I didn't go to. I went to the museum but not the park. But as I understand it, Brandon, it's kind of like not a big park really.
Yeah, you didn't miss out. Well, to be fair, when I went, most of the exhibits were closed besides the little museum at the park. So still, it's pretty out of the way too. So unless you're really in that area, I'd say go to the museum instead.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, other than that, not much in the way of like anime theme parks. And then 2 weeks after Toriyama's death was announced, this Saudi Arabian company and the Dragon Ball official site announced a complete Dragon Ball theme park that is massive and super detailed and like everything you could ever imagine in Saudi Arabia, obviously. And yeah, I don't know if like they had this in the works and the timing just worked out, or if the news just inspired them to post this now, or if they just like put all their resources in AI to work in 2 weeks to get some proof of concept out to try to capitalize on it. But timing I think is kind of insane.
It's definitely probably the latter. Like, it doesn't surprise me that following this, it's like the Saudis throwing all this money at a project.
Their
like
infinite
this.
money cheat.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So like, if they're not gonna like buy a soccer team, they're gonna do something like this. So like, I wasn't super surprised. We'll see if it actually like comes to fruition.
If it exists, yeah.
Yeah, if it's anything like that Willy Wonka land, I'm not gonna get my hopes up.
Yeah, it's supposed to be over 500,000 square meters, with just all these gigantic areas and everything you could imagine. So
This
You are right
website
that
certainly is doing things.
I'm not even gonna open that link. It is you make a good point that like I'm surprised there's not like already like a One Piece theme park, like that, a series like that just like begs to be made into a theme park, or like like a mini Konoha Naruto theme park, or
just like
anything.
Jumpland.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it took them this long to get a Super Mario theme park, and I mean, that's been doing numbers just as long as anime and manga has. So,
and that took like a partnership, just like the Demon Slayer stuff at USJ. Like, these are the theme parks that have existed for 1,000 years that we're seeing this stuff at. There's no like focused park on anime or video games or anything like that.
I wonder if there's just not like a like domestic demand for it. I'm not really sure. Maybe like the Japanese teens aren't trying to go to like theme parks and ride roller coasters.
Let me tell you something, Brandon.
I don't know.
The Japanese teens fucking love that Baymax ride.
Yeah.
There was a kid outside the Baymax ride for, I don't know, 12 hours, just dancing along like fucking Idol fans to all of the Baymax songs that were on repeat, just nonstop. We passed by him repeatedly for like at least 8 hours, and every single time we passed by that place, he was going through the motions. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I always assumed it was like a get for like American tourists because I feel like theme parks and thrill rides are more our forte, but hey, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thrill ride stuff, I guess there wasn't like a lot of that and a lot of well, okay, they have the fucking Jurassic Park one. That was terrifying. Yeah, okay, I take it back. I don't remember if it was mostly Japanese people or tourists on that, but I mean, there were a lot of like Japanese teens filling up Tokyo Disneyland on a Monday, so yeah.
Fair.
Anyway, please fund Fandom Post Radio's Saudi Arabia trip.
Yeah. Please.
I am not setting foot in that country.
Right. Well, we just lost all our Saudi fans.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to cover, so, of course, seasons are ending. Coinciding with that every year is Anime Japan. So we get lots of news, usually about new seasons of stuff that's ending. And this year, we got some stuff that we kind of already knew about, just like release dates and stuff. But the one to bring up for, this episode's topic in general is they did confirm Apothecary Diary Season 2, which was announced at the end of the episode as well, but they confirmed that it would air in 2025. So you could guess as much, but that was the one piece of news that I did want to cover about that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was neat seeing the announcement right at the end because it was just overall relaxing. Like, good, we are going to get more of it.
Yeah.
So, is it not confirmed that Freyren's getting continued, despite it being like believable that it will continue?
Yeah, all signs point to it will continue, but nothing has been confirmed. Just the end card is like the adventure continues.
Gotcha.
Yep. But I want them all to take their time, take as much time as they need. Give us the same quality again.
Yeah, man. Madhouse could take 5 years on that. I don't care.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's all the news that I desperately wanted to cover.
I had one random one I just thought of that I thought was silly, but it's not super anime related, but we were talking about theme parks and stuff, and it got me thinking that I saw for the new Spider-Verse movie, they confirmed that the Toho Spider-Man is gonna be in it. Like the Japanese
the
Spider-Man
second one too.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a different iteration or something, but specifically like the live action one that has a Megazord basically. But
nice.
That was a fun little tidbit.
I mean, that sounds pretty dope.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, we'll see whatever happens with that movie.
Cool. Well, if we don't have any other news, I imagine we can just pop into talking about the shows on the season and what was good and what we enjoyed and what we didn't enjoy so much. I think everybody kind of knows the leaders of the pack here, so I think it could be a little fun to at least start the episode out talking about maybe a couple of others that I don't want to say dark horses necessarily, but just don't get the same attention as your Freerens, your Mau Maus, etc., etc. So how about, it looks like Kestrel, you and Bran both finished solo leveling and have varying opinions about it. I mean, obviously, Bran and I weren't as jived for a while, but I'm glad to see that you finished it, at least, Bran, or I'm assuming you did, or you could just be lying. So.
No, I am caught up to the recent episode. There's still, I think, one more to air, but I have watched up. And it's a good thing I did because I feel like the most recent episode elevated my score slightly more than it probably would have been before it. Yeah, I feel like I went on like an angry tirade last time about this show, whereas now it's like it was fine. Like I kind of like accepted that it's not going to be anything exceptional in terms of its story or development or anything, and that kind of helped me stay engaged with it more. And overall, it's fine. And of course, it's a show that is very much carried by the animation. I think, who is it? A1.
Yeah.
A1 definitely brought their A game for this one because, and they're I feel like they can be hit or miss sometimes, but I think they knew that this show needed to be carried on its fight scenes, and it definitely did that. And for a lot of people, that's all they will need it to do, and it definitely delivers on that. Especially the most recent episode 11, and from what I hear, the final episode cliffhanger moment should be really good as well. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I will say it's kind of like a minor spoiler up to this point of the show, but like I was really enjoying this final fight until Sung-Woon just literally ends this opponent the same way he's ended every other big bad boss he's had to fight so far. And like that, it was like a jump in the shark moment that I was like, why can't this show just like get past this? And I don't know, it took me out of it. But overall, it's fun enough, and I understand why people are hyping it up, but I don't know. His hype.
Kestrel, your rebuttal.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it does what it set out to do very successfully. And I don't know. I guess I just didn't expect that much more from it. I think throughout its storytelling, it's had some interesting twists with kind of how his character evolves and the questions that you ask about what's going on. And then all of that is just wrapped in like pitch perfect production and music and everything about the presentation. So yeah, I think maybe just expectations from whatever the hype was. I guess since I had already read it, I knew what to expect, so the hype didn't really do anything to me. I was just kind of looking forward to it, seeing it really well animated and with really great music and everything, and that's what I got. So yeah, it's pretty much what I signed up for and was hoping for.
That's fair. I feel like it really didn't help that for years I've been hearing like, oh, once this show gets an anime, it's going to change everything. Like, this is the one manhwa you need to read. It's like, okay, let's calm down. But yeah, you're right. The presentation really, though, was like superb all the way throughout. The music was great. As I said before, the voice acting for the main character was really good throughout too. He really carries it with his screams. I'm sure he's honeying up his vocal cords as we speak. But yeah. And honestly, like the more I think about it, I should give this show a little bit more credit because a lot of the other things I was watching this season like continued to like decay my interest to the point where like I was barely paying attention to Blue Exorcist like 3/4 of the way through because I just was completely tuned out of the story and the stakes in it all. Whereas like I at least stayed engaged with Soul Leveling all the way through. So it did that much, and I think if I kept at it with like you said, a more level head of my expectations, I'll enjoy it more.
A more solo level head, maybe?
Oh, yeah, you.
you open the door, he just walked right in. That's all.
That's true.
Yeah.
Open the gate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, if that's all we got for really the solo leveling stuff, we can certainly move on. How about we talk a little bit about some dungeon meshy going on here? Because we've got some opinions that are sort of all over the map, from some A minuses to some B minuses to, you know, I'd probably be in like a sort of a B minus C plus kind of territory. So Yeah,
Why
I
don't
think
you?
similar to what you had said, Bran, about solo leveling.
Yeah.
The last two like Red Dragon episodes for Dungeon Meshi were definitely, I think, the best that they had, and really brought me into it. And not just from the standpoint of like how kind of dark it got, and put aside the comedic elements for a little bit, which was nice. But I think it obviously had big step ups, whatever.
Still steps up, yeah.
Yeah, steps up in animation quality. It just, those ones felt, I don't know, the most trigger like in their action, like especially when the whole art style changed entirely. I thought that was, really cool, and I like the idea of using this like forbidden dark magic to, do what the normal stuff couldn't really handle, and everything. So it really sort of brought my attention back in the series when it was a little bit waning at that point in time. I remember in previous episodes of the podcast, I had mentioned that it felt like we strayed away from the general goal of rescuing Fallen, and it was just mostly like a cooking show after a certain point.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get those episodes where we're back on track, and we're clearing the goal that was set at the beginning, and now we're gonna essentially witness the consequences of the actions that we're taking to achieve that goal. So it revived interest for me for sure. Like, I wasn't thinking about dropping it or anything, but it's kind of similar to, once again, Bran, what you had said about Blue Exorcist. There were times when I was watching it where I just wasn't paying as much attention as I probably could have or should have, especially when it's the cooking segments. But yeah, those last two episodes were pretty fucking baller, I thought. Obviously, spoilers are in this, but I'll just mention it right now. Like, Lyle's getting his leg bit off was cool as shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was all about that particular segment. Like, when they did the zoom in on his face when he's flying in the air towards the dragon, and it almost looked like weirdly rotoscoped at times, like, because the way they animated his face changing with the momentum in that slow motion, I thought was really cool. And then how Marcel looked when she was doing the black magic circle, and she all of a sudden started just turning into like a straight up evil witch looking thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that was all really cool.
The more like off model the animation gets, the more trigger like it feels.
Yeah, for sure. The more they take on, I don't want to say mature tone, but definitely a more sort of twisted tone and look compared to their more PG rated normal versions, was some of the best moments of that episode, because it really looked like they were playing around with the medium, and it just felt way more expressive.
Yeah.
At that point.
I feel like the dragon fight definitely lived up to the anticipation of it. It definitely felt like a battle that was not at all in their favor, and even just like the weight of everything happening, like Senshi just getting like lightly stepped on, like basically crushed all the bones in his body, and like you said, like Lyos getting his leg bit and stuff, super raw. And I especially liked the them just showing up to that town and being like, oh, a dragon's been here, and then boom, the dragon's there. I liked that there wasn't a ton of buildup. They were just like, oh shit, we're not even ready for this fight, even though we've been like going to do this whole time. And I feel like I don't think it was like on purpose, like a meta contextual thing, but when we were talking about how like the show felt like it kind of lost the plot for a while, and they're just kind of cooking and dicking around for a long time, it felt like that was a consequence of them dicking around. And once they finally got to their objective, they were like, oh shit, we actually have to do this. We actually have to fight a dragon now. And you could definitely feel the desperation in that battle, which I thought was really fun.
Yeah, well, the suddenness of it, I think, is what especially gave it more tension and like emotional weight, and then even more power to the dragon than they thought, because you go in there expecting that they're gonna have a plan and they're going to fight this thing in a cave or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, relatively stereotypical thing. But then instead of them walking into the battle walks into them after a certain point. It gives even more like chutzpah to the Red Dragon than what was even advertised to a certain point. So it certainly helped, which was really great. Yeah, I don't want to say those two episodes redeemed the series because, like I said, I didn't dislike it, but it certainly elevated it to a higher standpoint than what it was for me at that particular time. Now, what they do with it moving forward, I think, is we're back into sort of question mark territory. We did get at the end of the episode a little bit of preview with like the dark elf person, and obviously, Fallen is not the same Fallen that got eaten.
Yeah.
For reasons that at this point seem very clear. It's just more the extent of the reasons and the consequences, like I had mentioned earlier. So I hope they can kind of carry that a little bit. And obviously, we're gonna get lighthearted comedy moments because it's kind of what this is. I just hope they don't completely abandon that and that we go back to like dicking around lackadaisical stuff right away.
Yeah. I mean, from what I hear, like, I luckily haven't really gotten spoiled on anything, but I feel like reaching this point of the story is when the hat drops a little bit and they're like, oh yeah, there's definitely some schemy shit going on in this dungeon. So I think, like you said, they're gonna always maintain the lighthearted elements because I feel like that's just like part of the core appeal of the show is obviously the cooking and stuff. But yeah, I'm really curious to see where the story goes from here because this was literally what the premise was built up to so far. So it really could go anywhere.
I really like the detail they put into the resurrection and the reverse flaying of like the very anatomically correct model of human being regenerating and constituting itself.
Yeah,
you
that
can
was
see all
so
the muscle
raw.
layers and shit.
It
At
gave me
first,
big Hellraiser vibes, like from the first
Yes.
Hellraiser movie when the dude is reverse, resurrected, everything. That's what I got from it. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's on purpose, but that's exactly what this feels like.
Oh yeah. I thought at first that Marcia like passed out before completing the ritual, and we were gonna just get like a
Oh god.
a skinless Fallen. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen, but yeah, luckily that's not how it panned out. No,
When
yeah,
she did
was
that, I
great.
turned to Emily and went, "She's just gonna wake up screaming, and she's not gonna stop screaming."
Yeah. Oh
But yeah,
man.
what did Cater Kestrel? What did you guys think of it as it went on, especially with the last two episodes? The sort of culmination of the entire season up to this point.
Animation fantastic, obviously. I wish there was a couple of exposition things that they cut out from previous episode that I wish they had left in. Just because it was really hammering home, like some people online were like, well, like, what's the big deal if they can just resurrect people and stuff? And they cut out a whole explanation that the dwarf lady Namari had with the twins about how resurrection of the dungeon works and how truly fucked they kind of were just finding her skeleton. Because like the less of the body that you have, it's way like damn near impossible to bring somebody back. Like even if it's like she gave some like percentage of body you needed that could not be missing in order for resurrections to like work most of the time. And the only real hint of how well and truly fucked they were was when Marcel was like, we can't move the body, her soul might detach from it. Like situation and like the weirdness of what resurrection inside the dungeon is, and how it's not normal and resurrections shouldn't be normal. I know Senshi brings it up at some point that like, yeah, you can't just resurrect people in this world. It only works in this dungeon. So I don't know, just more stuff that hammers home just how fucking dire that whole situation was.
I feel like it's really silly the way they like gleefully put her skeleton back together. They're just like digging through this mass of guts, and they're like, "Oh, all we have to do is find all 206 bones."
Yeah, they were all way too cool with it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, the part shock and part also they've all died in the dungeon before, so they're kind of like slightly over it,
yeah,
and like desensitized to like shit that you should not be desensitized to, which kind of makes all these adventurers like freaks because it's like, as Senshi points out, it's like people dying and coming back from the dead is not normal and you should not be flippant about it, which is another thing that they cut out in Omari telling the twins going like, hey, don't like just be like, oh, if I die it's okay, someone will save me. They're like, no, because if nobody ever finds you and your soul decides to go possess somebody who's living, it's like, yeah, all sorts of bad shit can happen. This is not a guarantee that you can be brought back if you die down here. Like, if you get like nuked, you're not coming back from a pile of ash kind of situation.
Did either of you
Dungeons and Dragons rules?
Did either of you guys that watched the episode have any sense of just, even when Fallen came back and they're all celebrating, just like a sense of dread the rest of the episode? Because I did, and I couldn't really enjoy it because I was just waiting, like, the way the whole ceremony went down and everything, I was just waiting for it to turn into like an A24 horror movie.
So yeah, we were about to have a Hereditary moment or something.
Yeah, like she's gonna come back and everything's cool, and then all of a sudden she like accidentally kills Senshi trying to heal him, and he just explodes.
Yeah,
or something like that. Like, I was waiting for it. Luckily, it didn't happen, and maybe it could in the future because there's clearly something going on. But I don't know if that was intended. But maybe I'm just partially jaded by other pieces of media that do this. But it was. I didn't mind it. I liked it. I just didn't know if it was intentional.
no, I feel like there's some element of that, especially because I feel like the show hasn't fully shown its hand, but like, you know, they're very much hinting at stuff like, oh yeah, Marcel is learning forbidden arts, just so you know. Like, yeah, I know she didn't tell anyone about that, but yeah, I can just resurrect the dead and stuff like that. I feel like there's definitely more rug pulls to be had moments, but I'm glad that since she didn't explode, that would have been bad.
We're gonna, to use another movie, the first thing I thought of was getting Pet Cemetery vibes up in here.
Very, very Pet Cemetery vibes. Like, hey, maybe you yeah, I don't, not,
Mm-hmm. Just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Yes, technically, Senshi did blow up. He just got healed after he did.
It's fair.
Senshi was not thinking very far into the future of why Leos told him not to light a fire inside the dragon the first time they were in there.
Yeah, that felt like a weird out of character moment for him.
Sometimes he's flaky like that.
Yeah,
maybe that's more in the manga, because in the anime, I felt like he's typically a voice of reason, especially anytime magic is involved. Like when they were in the underground water, he's like, "No, don't do this, don't do that."
Well, he also refused to wash his beard, and
well, who hasn't?
I feel like it was more so because of his lack of experience with dragons. Because from what I knew, he hadn't really faced one before that moment.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
But kind of speaking to what you said, Kate, about them leaving out some of the finer details, I feel like, and I don't really have context because I haven't read the manga yet, but I feel like there's probably a lot more info dump and like text stuff that would like really flesh out that they're trying to do like a little bit more like diegetic world building for the anime's version. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of that definitely will get glazed over. But up to this point, I do like the tidbits they do give us about the world and the monsters and stuff. Another one of my favorite bits from the last 2 episodes was the them explaining how the dragon blows its fire breath, and the way it like clicks its tongue to that it sounds like a lighter.
Giant fucking
Yeah.
Zippo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that detail.
Yeah, the dragon's basically synthesizing its own lighter feel of in its what are they called in birds? Gizzard's gullet, something along those lines.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for what the details they have given us so far are nice, but I think it would be nice if I feel like just the anime adaptation isn't trying to be too heavy-handed with like the info dumping besides when it's like Senshi explaining food.
Yeah. You have to cut this here and cut this here and cut this here.
Yeah.
I mean, they've cut out some of the other stuff before. Like, they cut out all Marcel explaining how to make soap and a couple of other things that were just kind of nice character moments, but, not really super necessary to an overarching plot. It's just, more fun little moments that weren't there. It did keep in the fun little moment of Chilchuk cursing at Laios in every language that Chilchuk knows. It's awesome.
That's funny, yeah.
Which is really funny because then in the English dub, like immediately after that, when Marcel heals Chilchuk wakes up screaming "motherfucker," which is after he complains that there's no good swear words in common that can adequately express his anger at Laos, and then waking up immediately starts screaming "motherfucker." I'm like, that's beautiful. That's just a beautiful thing. Yeah, the internet got very excited about Marcel and Fallon in the bath together.
Oh, of course they did.
But it was funny because I got to watch both sides of that, where someone's like, "Oh, fan service in my dungeon meshi." I'm like, this was pretty much shot for shot what was in the manga. They didn't really add anything to it.
Yeah.
They actually restrained them. The thing they did add was it was Senshi getting flipped upside down and getting a nice view of his package.
Yeah, there was a little package shot there.
Yeah, that package shot was not in the manga. It was like his little skirt was down in the manga. So they added
they added the bulge in the anime.
Yeah, some animators that are like, I'm getting my Senshi fan service in there.
There are some. I'm not like for serious. There are some like nice like shots in later chapters in the manga, like the cover, the chapter cover art, where there's one where Senshi's just like sitting there reading a book or something with his shirt off and stuff, and everyone's all like, "Yeah, look at that man service."
You mentioned the dub, Kate. Overall, did you watch it mostly in dub?
I've been watching it mostly dubbed. Yeah.
Okay. Do you like it? I haven't watched anything besides I saw the clip of Sungwon Cho as Senshi where he's screaming bread, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, the English cast is fantastic. Like they're very good. Very, very, very good. Like they all just they're very on point for the characters they are playing. Like Chilchuk's voice actor is fucking amazing. And like obviously the Sungwon Cho and Emily doing Marcel and the guy doing Laios was from Comedy Troupe or something. I didn't recognize his name, but that's what somebody said. And he's fantastic. They're all fantastic. The dub is great.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's missing anything. This is a pretty banger dub. So yeah. I like watching things that feel like they should be in English and English.
That's fair. I feel like it's fitting for the series.
But yeah, I don't know. You can't go wrong with either. So just comes down to personal preference. But yeah, I'm gleefully awaiting you guys' reaction for what's coming up. So
yeah, is it? I know that it's confirmed for at least like 24 episodes, but do we know if it's going to be continuous or if it's okay? Nice, sweet.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna take a break before they. I mean, I hope they don't. They can't. There's no way in hell they can fit the rest of the whole entire series in the next 13 episodes. So
Hey, there's always time to get Promised Neverlanded, and I'll never count it out after that.
yeah, I don't think. I thought I heard somebody online say that they were gonna do two full 24 seasons, but that doesn't quite work out either. Maybe not. No, that doesn't quite work out.
3 seasons in a movie. Wrap it up.
I don't think that would really work in this case. Knowing how the series kind of wraps up, basically, well, almost wraps up. Volume 13 just came out in English, so Volume 14 will be out at least by the end of the summer, and then the series will be wrapped in English. So all of the manga will be out by the time the anime finishes up in English. But just knowing where the story's going and how like the final, essentially what is the final battle plays out. Yeah, that wouldn't really work as a movie. You'd be missing like all the context.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kestrel, do you have anything to add?
I don't know. Dungeon Mesh doesn't really have arcs. It just has a continuous. There's like before event, after event. Basically, is what you're getting here. And not really arcs. Just meals. Lots of meals.
The meals of the arcs.
The meals are not going to go away. The meals are key to the plot.
This one big buffet.
Weirdly.
I keep getting up for more plates.
I want to try dragon steak.
Yeah,
I want to know what that tastes like.
That looks real good. I love Lyos's little rant. He's like, "Why even compare it to anything else? This is a taste of dragon."
Oh yeah, the other funny thing is watching people online talking about how autistic Lyos is. They're like all the autistic people online are like, I identify with him so much, and I'm like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
Something I never really thought about. I'm like, yeah, he's a little on the spectrum, just a little bit.
Sure.
But it was very funny.
That's our himbo.
Yeah, I was trying to talk before, and apparently my audio was not going through. So
I can hear you right now.
yeah, well, that's why I disconnected.
Oh,
yeah. So anyway,
thoughts, Kestrel.
Yeah, I think most of my thoughts were relevant to like half an hour ago's conversation. But yeah, it's fine. I definitely appreciate it feeling like things matter now. It was very abrupt and kind of tonally inconsistent. And I'm curious to see how it'll balance it going forward. But now that it has some sort of stakes and more serious elements to draw from that it's teasing more of in the future, I am hopeful that I will get more invested in the actual story and characters. Yeah, I definitely appreciated the darkness and the action and the expressiveness of the animation and the whole human transmutation bit. Yeah, and I also had some of the same kind of reactions about just the ominous senses that was giving, kind of the foreboding and just the general tone of it. And yeah, I do think that I don't know, more exposition and more character building up to this point, instead of just like recipe would have helped it, both to get more invested and to feel like it was more than just a food show. So yeah, hoping for a slightly better balance of that. And also I just wanted to read off a message that Cain posted in our Discord on January 5th. He said, I liked the first episode. Seems like it'll be a fun series. Netflix said there would be nudity, though. And we got that. We got it.
Yeah.
As promised from episode 1. We have
we
I told you
finally
there's
got
nudity happening.
the blessed nudity. Actually, I thought about that while we were talking. I was like, when did I say that?
Yeah.
Because I remembered bringing it up, but I couldn't remember when I brought it up. And I was like, well, we got it. We certainly got it. So living up to that TVMA or whatever the hell the rating system Netflix uses.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I was expecting like, I don't know, some like tentacle stuff or some body horror stuff, but
Oh,
no,
for sure. Yeah.
it was just pretty much like here's 15 minutes of naked girls being naked girls touching each other.
Because magic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, magic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hot tub, not 5 feet apart, because they're totally gay.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I'm definitely like the fact that it's going on for another core continuously at this point. I think without those last 2 episodes, I would have been like, all right, do I got another 12 episodes of just some cooking in me? I guess maybe, but now I'm definitely more intrigued to see where it goes and how it kind of mixes these elements and tones together in the future.
I agree that I think the show could benefit for a lot more characterization stuff, because I feel like a lot of the weight of bringing Fallen back was carried by some of the backstory we got with her and Laos, as well as Marcel. And I feel like the fact that we were given some nice history with like why they're even together in the first place and looking for her so desperately, I think that really helped seal it, especially after the fact when she's like, I'm so happy we finally found you again. It's like, okay, that felt earned, and I'm glad that these characters are back together, rather than it being like, all right, we haven't seen her since the first minute of the first episode, why do I care?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we're gonna get more Marcel, especially with her mentioning all the forbidden arts and like a dark elf showing up. I feel like she's got some skeletons in the closet, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Or maybe Senshi's packing some dangerous history. Who knows?
Yeah, I appreciated it being Marcel that had like the dark side, because I feel like she has been relatively underutilized so far. She's just kind of been like, the one who reacts to everything. So to see her like pull out that very different side was a nice little twist, even though it did seem very sudden and like, by the way, this is a thing I do also.
I specialize in all the shit that's bad.
Yeah. I love that everyone else was like, did you know about this? No, right. I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it all seemed a little out of left field, just because we've had like 10 straight episodes of and what if we cooked this? So, yeah, but I'd rather have it and have it feel a little inconsistent than have nothing with any weight at all. So I'll take it.
I love how their whole get down there like, how are we gonna kill a dragon with 3 people? Really, 4 people? Okay, now we have 4 people. One of them's still not a fighter. And then like, well, 2 of them really aren't a fighter. We have 2 fighters, a mage, and a lockpicker who can shoot a bow, but the bow's lost in the dungeon somewhere. Like, cool. What do we do now? We've got a pot.
The real cliffhanger is what's going to happen to Laos's sword.
Oh, Kensuke.
Yeah.
Kensuke should be killed. He almost fucking ratted him out.
That's true.
Yeah, Kensuke tried to take off. I don't know. They were contemplating eating Kensuke at one point in the last episode. So
yeah, that bit was so funny when Kensuke threw himself and Chilchuk just looks over at him like, "Are you serious right now?"
Yeah, he's like, "What the fuck did you do?" And then he realized like that there was something in the sword, and he was just like, "Yeah." Hence the screaming and the swearing and the. Yeah. You said monsters are dangerous, and you're carrying one around with you. I love sword oyster. Sword oyster's great.
Yeah.
I like how it did the whole put up your dukes thing.
I know.
Yeah, that was
Fight me. Drunk octopus wants to fight. Oh, now I want a hanger in my bathroom that's just Kensuke putting up his dukes that says drunk Kensuke one.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad that everybody got something out of it. And it's continuing, which is nice. So we'll get the answers sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Or at least some more progress. Hopefully in this proper, more serious direction, or at least a better blended of like a better blend of the comedy and the more serious elements as they make their way back out of the dungeon. So, okay, then let's shift gears here, and I want to talk about Mashal a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I enjoyed Mashal this season way more than I thought I was going to. Like, it was pretty fucking great. Like, the whole time. Like, I didn't rank it per se higher than Freerun or Mao Mao, but damn, if there weren't some weeks where the anime that I really wanted to watch was I wanted to see what Mashal did to clown on these wizards more than anything else.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Freerun is really great and, you know, absolutely 100% world class. But I just want to see Mashal hit this blonde guy over the head with a fucking iron rod for the next 22 minutes.
Yeah, it really speaks to the lightning in a bottle of a one note character like comedy show that is able to keep your attention for 2 seasons. Like that's a winning formula, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember talking about the first season and not being, you know, like too excited about it, and then starting the second season because, you know, why not? I already in for a penny, in for a pound, and then ended up enjoying it way more than I remember the first season. So
Yeah.
that's a huge plus in my book. Yeah, just plus, who doesn't love a good like tournament arc kind of thing?
Yeah, and in typical tournament art fashion, it is interrupted by the main bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, 100%.
I also really enjoyed this season. I will point out that something that was one of my main criticisms in the manga definitely still holds true in the anime, and that's once the focus is no longer on MASH, the show definitely like dips in me caring about it. I think especially the weakest part of the season so far, for me anyways, has been Headmaster Wahlberg versus Innocent Zero. And, you know, it's supposed to be like a big, you know, climactic battle of space versus time, like the 2 strongest mages in existence. But like, I don't know. It like the whole time I'm just like, when's MASH gonna show up? That's just like, I don't know, like the backstory stuff with Adam Jobs and all that. Like
Adam Jobs, God.
Yeah, just very like contrived, and like even their battle is like, oh, I made space contort so your thing won't hit me. It's like, oh yeah, well I stopped time so that it won't hit me. And I don't know. It was just, I like it when it's a MASH strength ass pull and not a time bending magic ass pull. So him at least showing up to finish the job was fun.
That's the thing. That only works if you're not taking it seriously at all. And that when you have MASH on screen, of course that's the case. But if it's like serious characters trying to be serious and you're pulling that shit out, you're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not laughing at it. What's the point?
Yeah. There's also the fact that, and I think I have sometimes an issue with this in other, like just general media properties. It's like I knew Wahlberg didn't have a shot at winning this.
Yeah.
So that didn't help, like for me personally. Like I knew he was either going to die or something would happen where he, like, Innocent Zero would escape or something like that. Just because that the season's not over, the show's not over. He's the big bad guy. So I tend to not be as invested in any show that does like a big face off like this, because you just know the good guy is going to. There's going to be a stalemate at best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Hunter x Hunter and Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War both had the like old master taking on the big bad, and those were like the best episodes of each of those series. So it's possible to like elevate it to incredible heights, but this was not that.
Yeah, well, Hunter x Hunter, if I recall, and you'll have to correct me, Kestrel, but that old master versus big bad is kind of at like the penultimate part of the conflict.
Yeah, and
not just kind of right in the middle of like kind of early story. I looked up the manga on Shonen Jump after this because I'll probably just read the manga the rest of the way out. But this is like the halfway point of the story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, technically, it was a draw
yeah.
in Hunter x Hunter's case, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have so much weight because you're so invested in these old dudes and they've been like the most powerful forever.
Yeah.
And then, the way that they both end, which is fairly similar to each other, is very impactful.
yeah,
But this didn't really have any of that going for it. And
no.
I feel like, Hunter x Hunter totally broke the rules of Shonen with everything in that arc. I feel like this is, even though it's primarily a comedy, is still going to fall into the regular formula. And I mean, obviously, but MASH is going to be the one who fights the big bad and take him down and whatever. And it's probably going to be, hilarious and unconventional in how he does it. But yeah, in terms of that, it's not going to be like the big bad is taken out some other way or anything. So
yeah,
definitely not as invested.
That was something that I thoroughly covered when I was reviewing the manga week to week, is that this show is by no means like a standout for what the shonen formula is, because it's either MASH is on screen subverting the formula,
right?
And when he's not doing that, it's following the formula. So for the most part, it is very standard, like shonen action and all that jazz, until MASH shows up and fucks it all up.
Yeah. Which, I mean, maybe that will work and we'll appreciate it because we're like, right when we're getting sick of the shonen formula, we have MASH to bust through the door and fuck it all up. But yeah, I think the longer we spend in those periods of just normal shonen shit that is not executed particularly well, then those will be the frustrating bits. But yeah, I agree this season was way better than the previous one, and I was not expecting it to be this good. Because it's mostly just been a lot of really fun gags and just making its running jokes work better and better as it goes on.
Yeah. I don't know if I mean, it seems popular enough that it's gonna continue getting adapted from what I can tell, but that really makes me cautious about the next arc, which I believe will be, if it's the arc I'm thinking of, it is a very like action-centric arc that like will split up the cast and like they'll all have their own individual battles, similar to something that happened in the first season, but we'll see if it's able to carry itself, because like I said, I feel like once they start drawing it out and trying to do stuff with the supplementary characters, it's not as good. And unfortunately, the animation, unlike what I was saying about Solo Leveling, like cannot carry this show because it has a pretty bad art style, and I don't think the manga itself looks particularly great. Just like the general art style of it, so can't really bank on that to carry it.
Yeah, this has definitely not gotten A1's A1 team.
No. And there was like a single moment this season where it felt like they might turn it up a little bit, and it was when Macaroon and Rain were fighting in the forest, and he summoned his legendary Cain, and it was just like a moment of like really cool animation. And I feel like that is the thing that could be what they lean on, is just these flashes of the god Cains when they're used throughout the series, because they will become more prevalent. There will be more second and third level magic being used. I feel like those flashes of the big attacks just could be similar to, not to make this comparison, take it lightly, but like with One Piece, you'll have like a 20-minute episode of everyone dicking around in Wano, and then there's just like 3 minutes of Kaido and Luffy clashing, and it's the most peak animation you've ever seen.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely what shonen anime has become now, is they just put all the resources into the one big Sakuga moment, and then everything else is kind of just mediocre.
Yeah. If they could, refine something like that for the upcoming action-heavy season, I feel like MASH could retain its my attention and other people's as well.
Yeah, like those are the things that a typical shonen series has to do. It either has to do something new or it has to look really good doing something old. And if this doesn't have either of them for an extended period of time, then it could be a problem. And I know, every shonen series, anything that takes like half an episode in season 1 will take half a season by season 3, because that's just how like shonen time works. Everything just takes longer and longer as it goes on. So yeah, I don't necessarily care about multiple consecutive episodes of not MASH.
Yeah, we'll see how that bodes.
Whenever MASH isn't on screen, all the other characters should be asking, "Where's MASH?"
It's true.
They almost have to, because for the most part they're helpless without him anyway.
It's so true. I mean, literally, there were at least like 3 other divine visionary level mages in the Colosseum at the end, and they just were like, "Yeah, let's let MASH take care of that guy instead of like protecting the students ourselves."
Yeah.
I was wondering that whole time. I know it's just like the way that it's probably paneled in the manga. There isn't really a lot of like that much time for them to like do the exposition with like everyone inside the Coliseum, but the whole time I was like, so where are the other 3 guys that are supposedly even more powerful than MASH is? But
yeah,
that was a weird choice by Wahlburgers to only to revive MASH's friends, even like the red-haired weak guy whose name I can't remember. When you had the fur coat wearing bad guys right there that are essentially demigods of their own right.
Yeah.
Like, Siscon made sense because he's super powerful.
Yeah.
More so than his 2 lines lead on, but then Dot or whatever, it's just like maybe he's a fan favorite, so they pulled him out of the woodwork.
They revived him literally to give comedic relief.
Yeah, to be turned into a baby.
Yeah. That part was not particularly good.
I did like the part where Lance like heard his sister's cries in his head and stopped.
Not Lance.
Stopped like that stuff, and then Dot was like, "Did I just see that? Am I hearing things? Like, what's happening?"
Yeah, Dot's responsibility at this point is just to break the 4th wall, pretty much.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as they can maintain the creativity in which MASH solves problems and how he just laughs in the face of all the mages and wizards, I'll be relatively satisfied, because there's also that part that I enjoy, which in most fantasy universes, mages and wizards are obviously incredibly powerful and can tend to take on like arrogant personalities because of it. So obviously they reflect that here, and then MASH just shows up and clowns on them constantly. So it's like a just desserts type thing, which I enjoy. And plus, when you do stuff like turning your rod into a tennis racket with your bare hands, like
that part was made for you, man.
Yeah, that's straight up Cain pandering.
It really was, just like the Spy Family tennis episode. The MASH turning his like iron rebar magic wand into a tennis racket and then just hitting these magic tennis balls over and over again at that thing was pure gold. Enjoyed every second of it. Though I think that is the closest that MASH has come to committing straight up murder in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he hit that dude over the head, tomahawk style.
That should have split some skull. That's for sure.
I mean, he bled profusely out of the back of his head. That is 100% brain damage.
To be fair, that guy has probably killed a lot of people, so...
Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong or discouraging it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying MASH has beat up a bunch of other people, but you could always have that little bit of veil of, oh, he just punched him really hard a few times. He just crushed that dude's skull in.
Yeah. The one thing I could say, despite the show's like getting into those like typical shonen pitfalls a lot, at the very least, Mash like exponentially talks more shit and hits just as hard. So like, not like you said, like as they get stronger, the enemies will get more arrogant, and he will just clown them even harder.
Yeah, the shit talking definitely helps. Like, he isn't trying to be. They don't write him like a typical sort of shonen protagonist where he's kind of humble or whatever, or powered by his friends. He'll just clown on you and then let you know. Like, he'll give you the business immediately. Like when he was facing the blonde guy with the thorns, and he was like, "Oh, that's right. You gave me this magic. This is boring." And then also broke his neck. I'm pretty sure. Like,
Yeah.
so that's definitely true. But yeah, really, really glad that this was fun and a nice breath of sort of fresh air for me. Not that the other shows are specifically like heavy. It was just more like I can watch MASH and be invested into it, but I know that at the end of the day, he's just gonna do something funny and beat the hell out of a wizard, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
You need that decompression every once in a while.
Yeah. I guess you could say that the Mashal anime is definitely punching up.
Mm.
We need to end our discussion on these very sour, flat notes.
Indeed. Well, okay. Now I'm gonna have to be forced to pick a different show off of that just wet fart of a transition.
I feel like Leo's just like ranting about food, and then that's the response.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we shift then? We'll save Freerun for last, I guess, because I know everybody loves Freerun for different reasons, so that one can get a lot of attention. But let's talk about Mau Mau for a wee bit here.
Yes.
So I'm probably wrong for this, but I was both happy and disappointed that Mau Mau's dad turned out not to be a total scuzz lord. Like, he is, but he isn't at the same time, and he had that redemptive arc, and I was like, this is touching and fun, but I kind of liked it better when you were just a piece of shit.
I mean, he's still kind of a piece of shit, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. He's not completely 100% redeemed, but when the show really wanted you to feel like he was the villain, I did like it a little bit better, because I don't know, maybe it just made my life a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think he became a character, he became a person, and so he has a lot of flaws, but overall, he's been through a lot of shit too. And I think from the first impression of him you get is Mau Mau's impression, and so you're meant to see him as just this piece of shit. But
also Jinshi's impression too, because Jinshi obviously is relatively disgusted by his presence.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, he is a relatively disgusting presence to have around. But yeah, I appreciate that he has more depth to him as well, because he's a major character, so to have him be one note would have been a little disappointing.
That all his disgusting creepiness was just his deep, intense self-hate.
Yeah,
seeping out.
That.
It's all at least it put Mau Mau's like whole like classist like we're for different worlds. You don't understand. Do because like her whole family has been fucked up by like like an incident that it's like no good deed goes unpunished. It's like it's all like my not biological father tried to do the right thing, and that didn't work out, and then he was kicked out, and then the head of the family
and had to become a eunuch.
Yeah, and then really got kicked out, and then got kicked out of the family, and then it's just all cascading failure, which led to, essentially led to Mao Mao's like biological parents having shitty, lives of a sort. So yeah, just cascading circumstances, piling shit upon shit upon shit. It's a nice thought experiment, though. I mean, what would Mao Mao have been like if she had been raised by those two biological parents in a more normal, not brothel setting? Like, what would she have turned into?
Yeah, but that's like any interesting character. What if they didn't come from a broken background? Well, then they'd be boring. They wouldn't be as interesting.
No, she'd probably be just as weird, but probably in a different way. That's the thing. It's like she would have been really fucking weird, but she would have been totally fucking weird in a completely different way.
Yeah, there's a lot of nature and nurture to it. I think she was inherently going to be a weirdo, but I think the bizarre circumstances of her upbringing also helped a lot. But yeah, I definitely appreciate just how the series ties together all the plot threads that didn't seem relevant at first, and just uses them to not only further really interesting mysteries and Mao Mao material, but also flesh out the other characters and their relationships and make it feel like more of a real lived-in world. Because at the beginning it was kind of just like Mao Mao felt like the only real character compared to everyone around her. But now there's a lot more depth all around, and the way that they interact with each other and with the world feels more believable.
Interesting that we didn't wrap up the plot line that was the through point for the second half of this season. That did not get resolved whatsoever. Like, everything was connected, but yeah, it's like, okay, that's a dangling plot thread, and it's like, who was trying to assassinate Jinshi? We don't know. Like, where did that person go? We don't know. They took off. Well, and then we still have weirdo Courtesan, we don't know what her deal is, and everything just kind of stopped.
Yeah, her and her dad or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, yep. Okay, it's all like, well, good thing we're getting another season because this is all getting pushed off to then.
Yeah, it's definitely a symptom of, we just ran out of time. But I think given that, they did a really good job at making the final episode feel final and climactic. You just have to... I think they did a good enough job at selling that hopefully in the moment you forgot that there were all these other dangling things to resolve. Because that's just halfway through a volume, and I looked back at the volume where it ends, and it did not feel like a big deal at all the way they ended it. So, I
guess it's like the end of the second light novel.
Okay.
So it's following light novel breakdown rather than, because the manga just keeps going.
Yeah, like one core per novel, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, just the way it was executed, and for the most part, the anime, is kind of frame for frame from the manga's adaptation of the novel. But they definitely, drew out the whole final sequences a lot more to make it feel like this was meant to be a big climax. But yeah, the storyline just keeps on going and picks back up with the other things that it left off on. So I appreciated the adaptation choices to kind of hide the fact that, yes, we just ran out of time, so here is your non-ending ending for now.
Yeah, I think I'm a fan of, I know I wasn't so hot on him before, but I think I'm a fan of Jinshi now.
Mm-hmm.
He's grown on me, particularly as the season's gone on, and I think it's in the way that he has treated Mao Mao. Like, it went from sort of an obsession and a toy, and I felt like especially at the end of the last episode, it was with an actual care and respect for her and her capabilities. Like it's clear he's gone from just she's the toy that I just want to play around with to someone he actually cares about her well-being and then is comfortable enough around to be himself or more of himself than what you would normally see. And then he also kind of respects her for her like strategic mind and smarts as more than just a tool at the same time. So he's really come around for me on that. Like he's not nearly as creepy anymore.
Mhm.
And maybe that's a symptom of that, like because he doesn't see her as just like another one of the ladies that he can just kind of do whatever because he's bored or what have you. So I liked it a lot. That sort of evolution of their relationship in that respect. Also liked it that he just headbutted her straight on. That was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely made like the through line of this season that relationship because the whole final episode ends on that note of how far they've come and their future together and everything.
Yeah, and that Mao Mao doesn't seem as uncomfortable or comedically uncomfortable around him as before. She still sees him as a burden in some senses because he never comes around with something that doesn't trouble her.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form, but she doesn't physically recoil at his presence.
Which was fun, but you can't have that kind of relationship for the whole series. So,
yeah,
definitely good to see them moving on, and the fact that the last episode couldn't get you a plot resolution, so it's going to get you relationship resolutions instead, and it was pretty strong in that department anyway.
Mamo needs to stop beating the shit out of herself. Holy crap. She got worked this season. Like, head bashed in, leg cut up, worked to exhaustion.
Yeah, she's definitely reckless with her own health.
Yeah.
When it comes to achieving whatever goals she has, regardless of their impact on the world as a whole. Just whatever is important to her at the moment, whether it be poison or stopping an assassination or, anything else, she'll just put her body on the line, which is an interesting mindset to have.
She's just straight up a masochist for poison. Like she fetishizes poisoning herself. So given that kind of personality and mindset, it's not too surprising that she doesn't care too much about her own health and well-being.
Well, the poison, I think she said near the end of the last episode too, the series of poisonings also give her a high tolerance of pain.
Yeah.
So she's totally cool with opening up her leg wound constantly.
Right.
Yeah, that should have been healed long before now, and she's just like, every time it should, making progress, rips it back open. Making progress, rips it back open. Like, she has had an open wound on her leg now for, like, at this point in the story, like 2 months straight.
Yeah, that way you always have a patient to experiment on.
She still keeps her arm bandaged, like, the entire effing time. Also, no, I'm sorry, Mama. Your fingers don't grow back if you cut them off. What was that bullshit?
I took that as the mom cut her own finger off and sent it.
She did, but she also cut the tip of Mama's pinky off.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if that was true or not, actually. Because I recall seeing many scenes with Mao Mao's hands, and they didn't look at all disfigured.
Yeah,
like even when she painted her nails, they looked like normal fingers, every single one of them. So I wasn't sure if that was actually true or not, or if the mom cut her own pinky off and sent it to him to make it look like the Mao Mao's or what have you. I couldn't quite make heads or tails of that part.
Or fingers.
Oh, wait. Oh, now I'm looking it up because I want to see if this actually works. Okay, yeah.
Keep babies away from Cain.
Oh, okay. Kids will actually regrow a pretty good fingertip after amputation if you just leave it alone. Okay, yes. Mom did cut off the tip of her finger and she did grow it back. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Duly noted.
She had to be really little, and she was very, very little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a general question about the next season being announced for production already. Is this relatively rare? Because it kind of feels like it is. I'm used to the anime production cycle just being like, yeah, you'll get a second season, but after we're done animating these other 5 or 6 things that are going to take 2 years. But to announce it so early right away, does that mean anything at all, or just like, yeah, we're gonna get to it?
No, it used to be more common actually. I remember several shows that would like the season would end. They'd be like, "See you next season," like.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of series that end with confirmations of the next one. Probably just means that, this team doesn't have a bunch of other projects on their plate, and they're probably a little more ahead of schedule than usual.
Shocking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, like I said, it's like, I used to see it pretty common until recently.
Yeah.
Wonder why. Let's think about that for a minute.
But like all the big shows, obviously, when they end, there's another season announced immediately. Your Demon Slayers and My Hero Academias and everything.
Okay, well that's good. I was just wondering because maybe it's confirmation bias in that I only remember the shows that have incredibly long delays.
Mm-hmm.
So it tricks my brain into thinking that shows always have a decent delay, especially compared to obviously Western stuff where they're just like, oh, you guys want a second season? We'll just start doing that shit right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, also animation production takes a lot longer than live action on average.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously this industry has way too much fucking shit on its plate.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, definitely good news. Also, I just wanted to mention the final episode. Obviously, the whole dance sequence was, the anime just doing the legwork. But I definitely appreciated that the first opening kind of came full circle in the finale. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, we got the explanation for why the wood sorrel was featured so heavily, and we get the dancing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, I'm like, oh my god, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly.
And a nice joke where it's just like they saw another woman climbing the walls and then I had to come out and investigate it.
Yep.
They're like, oh god, there's another one of them.
There's another one. Jesus Christ.
I love how she's like, why are you up here? He's like, they called me when they saw another lady up at the wall. And then they saw it was you. And then they called me.
Yeah. Anyone have anything else? Sounds like no.
No.
All right, cool. Well, then, without further ado, how about we just jump into the anime of the year for all years, Frieren.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. A+, A+, etc., etc.,
I
etc.
almost gave it an
Top of the game.
A++, but yeah.
Did you say you almost gave it an A++?
I did, yeah.
Wowee.
Because I've given A+ before. And
What stopped you?
I don't know.
It's because you actually hate the show.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yep.
Because we don't have a fucking another season announced yet.
Yeah, that would have done it.
Yeah.
So, what'd you guys? Obviously, everybody loved the season. What did you think of? I want to get everyone's opinion on who passed and who failed that last interview and what you thought of it.
I think I feel like people who are like into real shonen tournament arcs, this is the kind of thing that would really piss them off.
Yeah.
And they had to know it was coming because there was only like 2 episodes left, and all the previous parts of the exam took like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love just how anticlimactic it was and how much it doesn't matter. And like Frieren's just total nonchalant reaction to just being completely fucked over, just doesn't care at all and is just so happy for Fern. Yeah, I just love her character so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how Freerin didn't even blink an eye. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna get
Yep.
failed, so
Yeah,
this is what it is. But it's funny that her and Siri's relationship goes back that far that even when she fails her, she's like, yeah, she's a fucking child.
yep.
Yeah. I like that there wasn't any kind of ass pull to make Freerin become like there wasn't any workaround or anything like that. It's just like a 1,000-year-old pettiness between these two is what caused this like it was failed from the start basically.
Yeah,
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 the
just
second that it was announced it was an interview, she was fucked.
right.
Yeah.
And she said that she's like, no matter what I say, I will fail. No matter what you say, you'll pass.
Yep.
And she's right.
Yeah.
Though
I
in a
like-
way, the title of first class magician or whatever just is nothing but a bureaucratic thing for Freerin anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
Like-
obviously she doesn't care because her
Yeah,
reaction to
she doesn't care. She doesn't need it. She doesn't need the spell or anything. Like it.
yeah.
She was along for the ride for the whole time anyway. For the most
Yeah.
part, just kind of like I might as well to give us the best chance at being able to continue our journey, not necessarily wanting to do it or having any emotional investment in doing it. So,
Yeah, she's just a proud mother.
yep, just a proud mama-san.
I
Um,
also don't mind that even though it is a very like biased selection, it works because Siri is just like the grand authority of the magic world leading up to this new human age of magicians. So it's and it's just like it makes sense that it's like, well, why don't we just leave it up to the intuition of the strongest being in the world? Like makes sense. And for the most
living
part,
grimoire.
yeah, exactly. And like for who passed and who failed, like I'm fine with it. I like that I forget her name, the girl with the red hair. I love that she was just instantly failed because because even before they announced what the third exam was, I was like, man, they're really letting through like quite a few people for something that was supposed to be like a test that no one had ever passed. No one had ever gotten through this dungeon. And yeah, everyone got carried by
Right.
Freerin and Fern. So it makes sense that they needed to really just like cull a bunch of the fat of like, yeah, you shouldn't have made it this far. Sorry, kid.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
like-
I agree with that, but I was thinking at the same time, like, well, also Freeren's presence made it exceptionally difficult because Freeren was the final boss,
Yeah.
and if she wasn't
True.
there, the final boss would have been something more along the lines of like,
It probably would have
Denkin
been the or
or-
the hair
well,
the hair
or the
girl.
hair woman, which
Right.
Ubel just clowned.
Yeah.
So clearly not the real final boss. It would have had to have been, I don't know, really any of them, but it wouldn't have been nearly as difficult. So I was sort of wishy-washy on that because yeah, she was the rising tide that carries all ships,
Mhm.
Freeren in this case, but she was also made it so that it was almost impossible that they would have passed. Like they were that close to completely failing entirely.
But I guess what it means is that on average, any given group of mages can't beat themselves in that
Yeah.
form.
Or just like, they can't work together.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of Denkin, was so glad he passed. Like,
Yeah.
he was my boy. Out of all the people that weren't Fern, I just really wanted Denkin to pass, and I think it's just because I vibe with his entire personality to a certain point.
Yeah, he kind of breaks the mold for like old, snooty, like aristocrat character. He definitely like his experience and wisdom speak to his age.
And he doesn't give a shit about getting down and dirty. I fell in love with him the second that he's like, we need this bird, so I'm just gonna have to fist fight you for it.
Yeah.
Like, when it turned into, you have to do what you must in order to succeed, even if it's not, glory. Like, it's not exactly a glorious way to do it. We're all out of magic. I'm just gonna bare knuckle brawl you in the mud just to get this bird.
That was his Common Rider moment, or whatever's whatever his name is from One Punch Man. It felt like Yeah, the down and
Moomin
dirty.
Rider, yeah.
Moomin Rider, yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it
he's
just broke.
definitely-
It broke the mold, like you said, Bran. It was just
Yeah.
it broke the mold, and I wasn't expecting it out of him at all up to that point. Like I figured he may have wanted to steal it from him, but he was gonna try and be crafty, and he was just no, we don't got time for this fucking bullshit.
Put up your dukes, brother.
Yeah, put up your dukes.
Yeah, and I'm glad it wasn't like there wasn't some like ulterior motive that came to light later or like some sneaky shit. And I was generally worried that he wouldn't pass. I thought Ciri would look at him and be like, she basically did say like, yeah, you're too old. Like there's like no worth in becoming a first class mage when you're literally on death's door. But she's like, I like your swagger, so you get to pass.
Yeah, the first thing you thought about was if you could kill me.
Yeah.
Even if it was for a split second.
They did a good job at kind of building up the tension in most of the like major characters when they got to their interview, because it did seem like it could go either way for most of them.
Yeah, especially.
I want to interject here and say that what is with the gravity must be a harsh mistress on their planet, because every old person shrinks by like 3 feet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no one's as ridiculous as Himmel. Like he doesn't look remotely like himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun gag.
Yeah, Himmel completely transformed.
Yeah. Completely different species.
Yeah, I agree there with the interviews as well, that I didn't know who exactly was going to pass or fail, other than the red hair girl. I knew she was fucking toast.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of tension there, even with the people whose scenes were like 2 or 3 seconds. Ubel passing, I wonder if that's going to have any repercussions, because she's just a psycho murderer.
Yeah, I feel like her character is still the most like confounding to me, where like I don't know if I actually enjoy her presence in the story, because she feels like cheat codes, like not in a way that like Freerin, it makes sense because she's a 1,000-year-old mage who was literally brought up by like the founding like person who like created like this human society of mages in Flame. But with Ubel, it's just like, yeah, if she can like imagine herself killing your ass, you're done for. It's like, wait, I don't know. I can't really understand like why she's as powerful as she is. And I feel like it will probably come down to like the author really likes drawing this character.
I mean, I think she does kind of represent like what magic means in this world. Like it's reiterated that it's all about what you can imagine. She does take it to an extreme that it seems like her power is a little bit broken compared to everyone else. So yeah. I'm curious to see like what are the scenarios that she's going to inevitably run up against that show you the big weaknesses of this power, because it can't be this overpowered all the time.
I do feel like, now that I think about it, she is almost like the other side of the coin to Fern for this like new generation of mages, where like Fern represents what humanity can bring to like the fundamentals of magic, whereas Ubel is like what can humanity bring to like the potential of what magic can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely Fern is more on the like, the basics, the foundations, the more grounded, realistic side.
She's a one-trick pony.
Yeah, and then Ubel is just like, how absurd, crazy, imaginative can we be with power? So I mean, I think at the beginning of the interviews, I thought like maybe most of them would fail. And then it ended up being, most of the characters that we had a lot of time with ended up passing, other than the ones that clearly weren't going to. And I think it'll help to see them as like, the next generation going forward in this society. I think they're, given how well they've all been characterized so far and how unique they've been and how believable they are, I think they're definitely not going away. Like, we're going to keep checking in on these characters and see them interact with the plot in various ways going forward.
I hope so. And I feel like that ties in a lot to Frieren and intern Himmel's quick goodbyes, where it's
Right, exactly.
don't make it sappy. You don't need to cry over it because it'll just be embarrassing the next time I see you.
Yeah. Which is
it's a goodbye for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the perfect metafictional way to end the season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You'll have more Frieren anime before you know it. It'll be embarrassing if you make a big deal out of this being the season finale.
Yeah. I will say, poor Stark just getting sidelined for half of the show.
Yep.
Yeah, but he did get to drink a lot of juice at night.
It's true.
So
I love, anytime we saw him during the second exam, it was just that old man being like, "I've taught you everything I know." It's like, okay.
I did appreciate at the end that you could tell that he had, built this relationship with the village while he had been just hanging out there alone while the girls were having fun.
Yeah, he definitely is trying to fill in that hole that Himmel was for the original party.
Right.
yeah, he's the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's a natural hero.
Love that.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because you see so many flashbacks of Himmel doing the exact same thing, just helping people, on that small scale. And he didn't say it in the way I was expecting him to say it during the final flashback of that when they were trying to cross that lamb highway. But he's changing the world, if not on a grand scale, but for individuals. He's like, I may not change, and I think they talk about this a little bit. He's like, I change the world for one person and they'll remember me, and I'll change it for this person and they'll remember me, and slowly but surely I will have changed the world on a grander scale, even if it's small building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than in one grandiose activity like killing a demon king or whatever, because a lot of people aren't going to be affected by that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to be the smaller things that truly do something for you. Just like the military guy said, he wanted to be he was more interested in, Himmel's stories about just helping carry heavy bags and wheat and stuff, because, that's the everyday Joe type stuff.
Yeah, it's his mythos wasn't as the Demon King Slayer, it was as the guy who helped all the villagers out when he came through.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what they'll remember when you come back, is what you did to help them on the ground. It's just like in, modern day politics and stuff, people remember you for your grassroots things, and that's what gets you that kind of notoriety more than big grandiose political movements. People love the guy that they think will just help them afford groceries, or that classic, I could have a beer with that person. That's what people remember at the end of the day. And
I can have a juice with that guy.
Yeah, I could have a juice at night. Before Fern yells at me.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole series, the big Demon King battle. That doesn't matter. I don't know if we'll ever see any scenes of it, but it doesn't matter. What matters is Himmel being a hero wasn't killing a demon. It was his entire existence, his personality, everything that he brought to everyone around him. And now, with everyone being gone except Frieren, she's kind of carrying on his legacy and nurturing the next generation. And it doesn't matter that there's no Demon King anymore, because all of the real issues that exist to all of the real people are going to be the same no matter what. So you still need heroes, and you still need people who are going to take care of the little guy. And yeah.
It's a time of peace, for better or for worse, especially in the case of that one guy that tried to fight Frieren at the very end.
Yeah. And that was a good way of still making sure that we got some like crazy action Sakuga scenes at the very end, even though there's
It really didn't need
nothing really going on in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I love how just the way that Fern has been brought up and the people that she's lived around from, childhood to present day is just completely nonplussed about Frieren having a giant gash in her shoulder. Like, oh, what happened there?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, nothing. I'm just glad you passed.
I wonder
really happy for
if
you.
the church is still open.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And,
Mau Mau levels of pain tolerance.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I liked the connection with Himmel with her, favorite spell that disgusted Syrie, but she was like, yeah, without that silly little mundane spell, I would have never joined the heroes party. We never would have killed the Demon King. So, it's these little things that seem like they don't matter that actually have the biggest impact in the end.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like the main conceit of the show that a lot of people who don't understand the appeal of this show is that it's like from the get-go we knew it was not building up to some like grand battle or anything. We are in the we're in the credits, the after credits scene basically.
Right.
And
The epilogue, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen most of the discussion I've seen online are that some people just like the show isn't holding their attention, like they need something bigger, something grander, something to hold their attention. They're probably like haven't played Fortnite in 2 hours and their attention span's going woo. But like I think that's the thing about this show is that like it being aimless and just like about the smaller moments is like why so many people love it. And
Yeah.
I love that it thematically came around to that at the end. And yeah, no, just such a well executed fucking show. It was so good.
And yeah, that's the whole, I mean, it's in the title, Beyond Journey's End. Like, we're done with the big plot. The whole point is that, the big plot and big punchies that all these other billions of pieces of fiction focus on is not really what matters in life. And so this is just putting that out of the way. It's like, all right, we're done with that. Let's focus on the real shit now. And yet to have that timeless quality because of, the main character being essentially ageless and immortal and just being able to view generations and generations from kind of a third party perspective. And just the direction of the series, it just carries that tone so perfectly because it could be so mishandled, but it's so perfect in every way.
I just thought up some nightmare scenario where Frieren, let's just say Frieren was made in the US and it became successful. And then the follow-up would be a live-action adaptation where they're like, we're actually going to tell the story of the hero party slaying the Demon King.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
I feel like if it gets successful enough, maybe that will happen on one side or another. Like, and it'll kind of miss the point probably. But yeah, I feel like they're probably leaving money on the table if they don't do that. But I hope they stick to their convictions and don't anyway.
For sure.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it as a spin-off. Like, you finish the story and then they, like, release a movie of it. I'd watch, like, a 90-minute or so movie. An actual movie.
Not televised snippets.
Yeah, because if you can... This is one of the rare times I think you could have your cake and eat it, too, if you just treated that part as a spin-off for people who wanted to actually see it, and then you just make it the most beautiful, like, action-y shit possible. I'm like, yeah, all right, cool, because it can do that. Like they've done it before, so why not? Like why not as just a little dessert?
It's true. I would certainly eat it up and would probably be the most incredible animation of all time. But I do think there's something powerful about just never showing the final battle.
That's fair. I think ideally finish the original show, and if there's any room and interest still, I would definitely eat more cake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this series goes on for another 1,000 years. We won't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
True.
One of my acquaintances was when I was talking about how I was avoiding watching the last episode because I didn't want it to be over. He's like, "Well, it's not over. There's still the manga." I'm like, I'm not going to read that. I feel like I couldn't because I've just been so spoiled by this show that I just want to keep experiencing it in that way.
Yeah.
Rather than reading the manga, like I will gladly, as Kestrel you said earlier, I'll wait as long as it takes to get more of it, because it's just such an impeccably created, just piece of media. Period. Let alone anime, that I feel like I could be disappointed if I just then read a static black and white comic, especially because I don't know if the manga is particularly like good looking or well drawn, or if we have like a sort of mob psycho-y type thing going on. I honestly don't know, but
from what I've seen, the Frieren manga looks really good. It's just a matter of the adaptation being so next level that it's tough. I'm usually a proponent that, like, if you really enjoy something, like, it's worth reading the source material, and in most cases the source material is the most, like, straightforward way of getting what this series is about. But sometimes a really good adaptation makes that very hard to do. So
yeah, I mean, clearly the adaptation just elevated every aspect of it so much. But I do want to check out the manga eventually. It might be one of those ones, depending on how long the wait is, that, like, maybe I will check out some of the manga, but try to not read anything first. So the first way that I experience any part of the story is still in the anime. So, I've done that with several series, like Attack on Titan. Like, I always, the final, like, omnibus, I had stopped several times throughout that for, like, several months or years at a time, because I was like, okay, that's as much as the anime covered, so this goes back on the shelf for another 9 months. Yeah. So I might end up doing something like that. We'll see. If they put out, like, some nice editions, and I'll definitely jump right on those. But I know, obviously, it's still ongoing and relatively early on, so might just have to buy the normal volumes whenever I get around to it.
Damn. Some, like, Frieren deluxes that look like little grimoires.
Oh my god!
Would kill for that.
Yeah, that would be hard to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Even for someone like me who doesn't really enjoy buying physical manga, because I just don't like the idea of having to find a place to put it. I would find a place to put those.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely everything about the adaptation, the aesthetic, the animation, just, I know I've brought it up before, but just little fucking filter of texture they put on it just makes it feel like so much richer. It's incredible. Just not having, like, solid colors that are clearly like, all right, we used the paint tool. They still used the paint tool, and then they threw a filter on it, and it just looks like real, like, lived in grain. And yeah, the director, like, God, whatever he does, like, I want him to do this forever, but I also want him to do Bocchi forever, and I want to see him elevate some other source material into some crazy heights, because God, he's just so good at capturing tone. Oh, God.
Wherever he is, I will be there day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Evan Call's soundtrack, absolutely fucking incredible every episode. Outdoes himself. Amazing. Yeah.
Little sidetrack, but I feel like the popularity of Frieren hopefully will create a wider array of people being interested in those kind of stories, because I feel like it's a real big one to pop off, but I feel like there's several other manga in that lane that could really, capture a similar audience. One I'm thinking of is Witch Hat Atelier. I feel like that's one in a similar space that I feel like would get lots of people behind it if it got adapted.
It's announced as it's supposed to be adapted.
Yeah, I thought I saw something about that.
I don't know. I don't know who's working on it. I can't remember who said they were going to be doing that.
But yeah, stuff like that. I feel like people. I mean, when done well, like people love traditional fantasy, and I feel like this show did that well.
Yeah, I think, you'll probably have kind of the monkey's paw to that, as always, where it gets really successful, so everyone tries to ape Frieren and totally misses the point. But I think you're right
we'll soon get like a new light novel adaptation announcement called like I just slayed the Demon King and now I don't know what to do with my life and my 700 girlfriends.
Yeah, exactly. But I think
I know it's shitty to say, and I'm sure I'm depriving myself of several good things. But I'm at the point in my life where the second I read a title like that, I'm like, I don't care. I don't give a shit if this is like the Mona Lisa. I'm not watching it. Like that's like
fair.
I can't
if your
handle
title's
those.
more than 20 words, then I'm not even bothered.
Yeah, if I have to spend considerable amount of time reading your title, that's just I can't handle it.
If it's a sentence, we're done here.
But yeah, I think you're right that for the other things that might be in that same vein, this is definitely a great opportunity for them to see how successful that can be and really give them the adaptations they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I guess this is usually the case, but the creators of the manga have never done anything before, so it's definitely a huge debut for them. But I guess looking back at all the all-time greats, that's usually true, so not that unusual. It's just being on kind of the ground floor here. It's impressive to see.
Yeah, I'm sad that it is over, but I'm greatly looking forward to more of it, and I'm greatly looking forward to either way. If it wins whatever anime of the year bullshit award it gets is great, but I cannot wait if it loses. And the sheer vitriol that would be generated by it, if only from myself, because I know we talked about that last episode, but if it loses to mainly anything for the most part, I'm in the boat that hard, I'll be fucking catatonic.
Impossible.
Technically, could Jujutsu Kaisen be up for awards next year as well because it carried over, or how does that work?
That's the question. Maybe, but I think it is. I think it needs to start within the period. So, the season started in the previous eligibility period. So I don't think they can use the same period. Maybe for continuing series it could, but One Piece doesn't get into anime of the year because it's always ongoing. So I'm guessing that's how it works. But I literally can't fathom anything else winning anime of the year. I don't believe it. It's like you need to be able to visualize magic to be able to use it. I can't visualize this. This does not exist in the universe that I can imagine.
Yeah, this cloth cannot be cut.
Right, exactly.
Fast forward to Hashira training arc winning.
Yeah.
That will be the last time I ever speak of anime awards. I guarantee it.
Damn.
Alrighty, well, we talked a good bit about Frieren, obviously a rousing recommendation for anybody. This is one of the only anime that I've recommended to people that they've watched and also enjoyed almost as much as myself, which is my own personal testament to its true quality. In that they don't like anime, but tons of people that I've talked to like this as well, so it has that wonderful wide appeal. But is there anything else on anyone's list that they would like to talk about? Kestrel, you have an absurdly long titled anime.
That's true. That is absurdly long. Yeah, so that one, I guess Seventh Time Loop is the quick version of the title. I was kind of disappointed by the ending, I guess. Obviously, it was another one of those. Well, that's 12 episodes, so I guess we're done for now.
Go read the manga.
Yeah, exactly, or the light novel, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if the title takes up 2 lines, it's probably a light novel. Yeah, so the ending was very underwhelming, but it was a fun premise. It's basically like, it's not isekai, but it is a time loop story, obviously. And I hate that they have to put like villainous in all these titles now. It's like, it's not really what it's about at all.
I seriously just think it's every show is the same show. I'm like, oh, another villainous season.
Yeah,
okay.
no. Yeah, it's not very much like that at all, but it's basically just this girl in this fantasy world, and she gets reincarnated, and she always ends up dying at the same point. But once she realizes that she's being reincarnated, or not reincarnated, she starts over her loop at a certain point. So once she realizes that she has these number of years that will always keep looping, she works towards kind of overcoming her fate, how she always ends up dying, and also uses that time to just gain new experiences and basically like live a different life every time, so that the next time she has all of these experiences to draw from and is like an expert in 7 other things, because she's used her 7 other loops to become an expert at whatever she decided to do at that particular time around the years that she had available to her. So it's an interesting premise, and she's a likable character, and it has a lot of like the trappings of kind of like what's the otome game, and you're very shoujo kind of like ultra dreamy guy with kind of a dark bad boy violent streak, and surely I can fix him, and all that kind of shit going on all the time. So it definitely knows its audience, but yeah, ultimately it just ended with kind of a whimper, because it was kind of building up to some things, and then it's like, well, that'd be cool if we had more than 12 episodes to work with, but we don't, so see ya. But so as a series, it doesn't accomplish that much, but in theory, if it keeps going on, then it could get to some interesting points in its storytelling.
I gotta say, the show I was more interested in hearing your opinion on is the one at the bottom of your watch list, which our very own Big Cheese himself, Chris, said is the anime of the season or the year, perhaps. Can you give me your opinion on gushing over magical girls?
I'd like to plead the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination.
That one definitely, when I saw the premise, I very explicitly did the Rock raises his eyebrow TikTok boom noise. I could see why it could be an interesting show to watch. It definitely just needs to be watched behind closed doors, making sure everything is locked and no one else can hear or see anything.
Yep. Yeah, I was I had a flight, and this was like not long before my Japan flight too. So I like didn't want to get even more behind with my anime. So I tried out like the offline downloads for like Crunchyroll and Netflix and stuff for the first time. Yeah. And I saw that High Dive didn't have it. Of course, they just revamped and added offline downloads like the day after I got home and didn't need them anymore. But yeah, so I couldn't watch that episode on the plane because it was the only thing I was watching on High Dive. And then I watched the episode when I got around to it on my computer. I was like, yeah, it's probably a good thing I didn't watch it on a plane, huh?
Amazing.
That's pretty much the whole show.
High Dive doing you a solid.
Yeah. Protecting me from myself.
Yeah.
Perhaps I would be in prison right now if High Dive had offline downloads a month ago.
Emergency landing.
Yeah. No, it's okay, I'll say this. It the mm, mm, okay, the things that I liked about the 100 Girlfriends show, like the way that it takes this super pandering formula that everyone uses and just like goes all out with it and gets so absurd that it's kind of satire. That's kind of how it started feeling like it would be, and it has some of that throughout, and it is a comedy, and it is occasionally funny and always very lighthearted. But yeah, it's kind of just porn, actually.
Yeah, anime has gotten to that point where like there used to be a fine line and a gray area, but now you can just kind of do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I appreciate, like, interspecies reviewers,
Yeah.
like I appreciate that it doesn't try to play coy like a lot of these shows that are selling themselves on sex too, where really they're selling themselves on like, ooh, but what if the nipple slips sometimes? It's like, nah, if you're here for some porn, then we're gonna give you some porn. We're not gonna play around here. We're gonna give you an extended 15-minute lesbian sex scene. That's fine.
But do the nipples slip?
Oh, I mean, the nipples are just always there.
It's always-
We're not playing around. They're just there.
Anime of the year. Never
Yeah.
mind. Forget Freeman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything we set up to this point, meaningless. In the
Meaningless pass. I'm an idiot.
Truly, this should win it at the awards. It should sweep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, that's a great title. I just want to say the one thing I want to just mention out of what's remaining on my list is that for Metallic Rouge, for a series that is supposed to be like the 20th or 25th anniversary, whatever, celebration of Studio Bones, it really is like a whimpering fart of a celebration for the studio, because when I think of like Studio Bones at their best, like the top of the level in animation, and they really have, besides like some of their big name projects, they've taken a lot of like boundary pushing shows that like go into like new directions, and I feel like Metallic Rouge just falls so flat for like what it could have been. And I mean, the premise I thought was pretty cool with this whole like, it's almost like Blade Runner and also kind of like Garo or like a tokusatsu show, and it's like the constant battle between like humans and AI and robots and all that, but it just like, I don't know, man, it just kind of meandered around, and the characters felt so flat, and like the plot just like inched forward and never gave me anything compelling to care about. And just like, there are moments here and there where the animation looks good, and there's actually pretty impressive 2D animation in spaces where you would think they would like really have to do some legwork with the 3D, especially for like the armored robot models. But man, the show's such a letdown for like what I thought would be like a big celebration, like Bones project, and it just like was not that. Really disappointed in it.
Yeah, that's kind of the reaction I've heard from most people, which is why I never picked it up, because I would be very disappointed with that, given how much prestige they were trying to put behind it. But in its defense, I will say something far worse than an impressive anime studio kind of, giving an underwhelming performance for its quarter century celebration is the biggest media company in the world putting out an absolute pile of shit for its century celebration. Anyway, Wish sucks. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime someone tries to do one of these celebration things, I feel like it's never what anyone, including them, wants it to be, and it's always disappointing. Like, the more you try to hype something up based on something that has nothing to do with the quality of a production, like, oh, it's the 100th anniversary, like, unless you make that mean anything, then it's just gonna build unnecessary hype with like absolutely no basis.
100 years doesn't mean much when like none of the actual talent or aspiring artists that made those 100 years worth anything were like, if none of them are there, then what are we aspiring to be?
Yeah. Now I will say about Wish, not that I want to think about that movie that much more, but although I will say they did an actual 100th anniversary celebration, which probably should have been all that they did for it, which is Once Upon a Studio. That was fucking great, and that pays tribute to Bernie Mattinson, who just passed away like last year, but he did work at Disney for like over 70 years. And he even contributed to Wish. It was his very last thing that he contributed to. So in that sense, it did kind of capture as much as you possibly could of the Walt Disney Company's 100-year history. Because like, how much closer could you get than a guy who worked at the studio for 70 years?
Yeah. Interesting.
Or 60 years, I guess. Yeah, 60 years. Like, he was working at Walt Disney Animation Studios for longer than Walt Disney was alive in his entire life.
Damn.
So, and
rebranded.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's I like care way too much about anniversary shit. But the other side of that is always that anytime someone tries to brand something as like, ooh, special 25th anniversary project, 50th anniversary project, 100th anniversary project, it's always like, okay, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, being this arbitrary amount of time after the company was founded has absolutely no bearing on the production at hand. So like, don't try to make hype out of something that could have no less to do with the subject at hand.
Yeah, better to let the project stand on their own than to try to, build a shaky foundation on like, X number of years. Isn't that cool?
And I mean, that's generally my reaction to, or kind of the torture I put myself through anytime I try to get excited about a production, because of like the people involved is usually what does it for me. And I've cursed myself with that for probably like 15 years, certainly 10 years of like watching seasonal simulcasts. I guess 15 years at this point, yeah. 10 years of probably solid, just looking at everything coming up the next season and seeing everyone behind it and getting myself inordinately excited about something that ends up disappointing me. But fucking Freerin broke the curse. I was more excited about that from the team behind it than I've ever been before, and it was better than I ever could have imagined. The animation was better than any of those Madhouse shows. The direction was better than Bocchi. The music was better than Violet Evergarden. The writing was better than One Punch Man, etc., etc. So that is the one big exception that finally, after 10 plus years of grinding this, I finally got my payoff.
Well, maybe in the next 10 or maybe 1,000 years, we'll get another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okie doke. See, we basically covered everything that was on my list, other than I started watching and I'm caught up with Ninja Kamui, and the main thing I can say about that is it's really good if you just like gory action, which is the only reason I watch it. So
yeah, that seemed like the main selling point was like, it's badass and edgy.
it definitely, I guess it depends on your definition of edgy, but it is certainly very action-packed and bloody, gory, and the animation and the action portions is always quite good. Sans now we have some 3D CGI stuff for these like robot ninja suits, which is kind of disappointing. but when it's just, standard animated action, it is pretty fucking cool. It isn't really edgy in any way other than it's violent. So I previously stated, it depends on what you think of when you think of something being edgy, because it's not trying to be controversial or anything like that. It's just like, here's some ninjas, here's another ninja that tried to retire from being ninjas, and now they're gonna kill each other constantly over the next 7 episodes, which is satisfying. Like, I can't fault it for it. There's a really cool fight scene in a shitty Chinese restaurant where the main ninja guy does a ninja art of some type, grows an extra pair of arms, and the other guy clones himself like 2 or 3 times, and they just tear the whole restaurant apart, and it is cool as shit. But that's all it's got going for it. So if that's what you want, for the people who didn't like Freerun because there wasn't enough action, just turn your dial over to Ninja Kamui, and then you can cleanse your palate with that.
There you go.
I will say, Freerun, 99% not action, best action show of the past 6 months. Anytime it had action, it was better than any action show. Best comedy of the past 6 months. Anytime it wanted to make me laugh, it made me laugh more than any comedy I watched.
But yeah, I'm pretty good. Other than that, to start with some recommendations, unless anybody really wanted to mention anything else on their list, but we can just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to recommend a show that I don't think we've ever talked about. It's called Freerun. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Well, let me talk about it for a few hours, if you don't mind. So last week I mentioned the Berserk Blu-ray is out, and the
mine just showed up. Let's go.
Nice. Yeah, I got a package with that and the Bleach 1000 Year Blood War limited edition. So super happy to have those. Additionally, I would like to recommend the Book of Cowboy Bebop. It is a super fancy, super premium import that you can get on the Crunchyroll store. And it's kind of a design art book type thing. And I would tell you more about it, but I haven't opened mine because the corner was crushed and I'm trying to get an exchange.
Oh my god, that reminds me. I wanted to send you guys this picture. I was in a random bookstore in Milwaukee a month or so ago, and I saw one of the most unholy books ever conceived, and it was someone had recently written a book based on the live action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop, and it's like a side story following Vicious.
What?
Oh my god.
Why does that exist?
And I could not even flip through that book without needing to sit down.
There's nothing worse than live action Cowboy Bebop and Vicious.
Yeah, that is. Oh man, that sent me reeling. I'm so glad you brought up your Cowboy Bebop book because that just reminded me.
I remember before the series started, they had already put up the covers of the novel and comic spin-offs of it. And it, for at least some of them on the cover, they had from the hit Netflix series, the series that literally had not launched yet, and as soon as it did, became very clearly, demonstrably the opposite of a hit. Yep. Well, this is not for the live-action Netflix series. This is for the real Cowboy Bebop, which thankfully is the only Cowboy Bebop that anyone has thought about since the day after the live-action one came out.
Oh my god. I do not have any recommendations.
Nice. I don't think I really do either on the anime or anything portion.
I literally don't know what's coming next season, so I can't really speak to that. Otherwise, I'd probably recommend something.
I think I've got 10 or so shows that I'll at least watch the first episode for. And then we'll see. Wow, that book looks terrible.
Wow.
I almost feel like that was the one I saw, and they probably like as soon as the series flopped, they were like, "All right, change what the thing says to just say a Netflix series." Especially because like a Netflix series, like I feel like that was a very last minute rush
That feels
job to
like
cover that up.
it feels like a bootleg.
Yeah,
The whole thing looks like a ass
it
bootleg.
really does.
Yeah, that word
fucking-
art title at the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
That show felt like a bootleg.
uh,
Although the one good thing that came out of it, of course, is they got some new tracks from Yoko Kanno and the Seatbelts.
Fair.
And the record for that, I think I saw it when I was at Tower Records. It does not reference the live action series at all. Like they literally drew the anime characters in anime style for the front and back of it.
Beautiful.
They
That's
want
amazing.
nothing to do with the actual source of the music.
I'll say the guy who played Jet was good.
I mean, the actors, they were doing their best. It's
Yeah.
just everything else was absolute shit.
Yeah.
And most importantly, completely missed the point of Cowboy Bebop and the tone and everything. Yeah. Like, I liked Opal a lot more than I expected, obviously. We talked about it for 3 hours. But, like, just stop. Just none of these need to exist ever. Like, the one thing I'll say about that is, yes, it's easier to get into that than 1,100 episodes of anime. Fine. Avatar: The Last Airbender? Yeah, of course it was better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie, but why did it exist? It had no reason to exist. The animated series is perfect. Just watch that. Stop doing these pointless fucking live action adaptations. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
fucking kick in the dick would be better than the M. Night Shyamalan movies. So.
Yes, correct. Just, there's no point. At best, you're just mimicking something that was made for another medium. Just let it be that medium.
Well, there's just always going to be people that delegitimize animation as a medium. So they're like, oh, why watch the child anime when I can watch adult live people?
Then they don't deserve it. Those people don't deserve Avatar. They don't
And you know
deserve
what?
art.
Maybe that's why this world needs live action Cowboy Bebop, so that those people can have that.
Yeah, right, exactly. That you get M. Night Shyamalan's Last Airbender. If you don't want to watch a cartoon, fine. Here's what you get instead.
Yeah. All
Anyway,
right.
what were we talking about? Watch for
Recommendations.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Asians.
Our recommendations: don't watch live action anime adaptation.
Yeah.
Unless
That's
it's One
my
Piece.
rec. Yes, One Piece is fine. Do that one.
Kate, anything from you?
Dragon's Dogma 2.
Nice.
I
I
said
don't
that
know
last
about
week.
Dragon's Dogma 2 circa 2 weeks ago, maybe, but it seems like Dragon's Dogma 2 circa right now is a slightly different story.
I'm still into it. People
It's
did not know
very-
what they were getting into when they got into it. It's Dragon's Dogma.
It's
And-
very heated.
yeah.
The internet is still up in arms about.
Internet was mad about
everything.
MTX stuff, which you don't have to engage with whatsoever. Internet was mad about frame rate, which your mileage may vary. Internet is mad about it being Dragon's Dogma because people went into it going, some crazy people are ranting about this game being amazing, and it's like, and they're like, oh my god, why is this so hostile? It's like,
Why
it's
why isn't this game holding my hand the whole time?
Yeah, and then it's like, it's Dragon's Dogma. They told you it's Dragon's Dogma. You start the game up, it doesn't even have a 2. It's just like, no, this is Dragon's Dogma.
This
Then we're
guy's
doing-
literally like, I'm gonna make a sequel for a game that you wanted quality of life changes from 10 years ago, but I'm just gonna make it the same thing, but like better. No quality of life, just better.
Yeah, and people don't know. People can't handle that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, publishers are gonna force developers. It's like not even the developers' fault. It's like the publishers, especially in the video game industry, are going to force microtransactions and money on the consumer. It's really, there's nothing you can do
Because
about it.
it's a bloodbath, and everybody's getting laid off. I just saw another layoff today. Like EA's like outsourcing all their QA people. So
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
surprised they didn't do that a long time ago, to be honest.
for real.
Yeah, well, it's a bloodbath out there, so yeah, of course they're gonna microtransaction. You don't have to engage with the microtransactions for this game. They literally don't do anything except for, maybe if you can't handle like the fast travel system in the game, then yeah.
It's for the people who don't want to play the game. They want to see the number go up.
Yeah, and then people are complaining like, I beat the main story in 20 hours, that's it. And it's like, there's like 100 hours of content in the game you do not engage with, like, the majority of it because you just, mainline the story. But, yeah, I don't know. People had expectations that reality was not meeting.
Well, glad to know that you're still enjoying it, because I did think about you when I first saw the first.
Oh no, it's exactly what I wanted.
The first couple, I was like, "Oh boy, I know Kate was looking forward to this. I hope she isn't sorely disappointed."
No, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. It's more Dragon's Dogma. It's all I wanted. The only thing I want is some more endgame stuff. I'm not there yet, but there's no like Dragon in this version yet. So we just need some DLC and we'll be good.
Have you had any of that dragon disease happen to you?
I got one sketchy pawn, and I gave them the side eye, and then I told them to do something, and they're like, "I know what to do," or something, and I was like, "Come here, bitch," and I threw her in the water,
tossing you off a cliff. Yeah.
I'm like, "You gotta go." And I'm like, "I'm not even gonna dismiss you. I'm just gonna pitch you into the ocean." And I was like, "I'll go one short until I get to another like summoner stone for more pawns," but I'm like, "You gotta go, lady." I was like, it's like I summoned her and the first thing she did was sit down, and my main pawn was all like, "Why are you sitting down?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." I was like, they just called out this other pawn. I'm like, that's bad news.
Yeah, when they're talking shit about the other pawns.
I'm like, oh man. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna rest for a while, and that's when the real bad shit goes down. So like I traveled with her for a while, and then she started getting more mouthy, and I was like, "You're into the water, you go." You drown now. Goodbye.
Oh god, I want to play it, but I don't have time.
It'll probably be
the endless paradox.
They'll discount it eventually. You'll be able to play it for cheaper.
Yeah, I'll wait for like the summer sale.
Can my main pawn Kifri from Witch Hat Atelier.
Love that. Heck yeah.
So I'm saving up to get him like his glasses because the glasses are sold through the Rift Crystal store in the game. So I'm like, please rent my pawn, and I'm not spending any Rift Crystals just so I could save up to get him his stupid little pin's knees glasses that he wears. Anyway.
I think I saw an Uncle Ruckus pawn, and that was about it for me to be like, I'll buy this someday.
I've seen so many guts. Oh my god, there's so many guts and so many Frerens running around that fucking world.
So many free runs. Well, of course.
I've seen lots of crazy ones, like the full Dungeon Meshi gang. Like,
I haven't run into any Dungeon Meshi people yet, but I've run into like 1 million Frerens and 1 million guts so far.
Yeah, the guts is bound to happen. I mean, people might
Joe Biden's
that guy at any point.
I haven't run into any Joe Bidens, but it's really funny when I'll run into pawns that are the cat people that are clearly named after the person's like pet cat. Because they'll be like
on mittens.
Yeah, they'll be like Fluffy. I can't remember what one of them was, but it was like so obvious that it must have been their pet cat's name. I was like, that's hilarious.
I am the kitten warrior, Snooky Wookie.
Yeah, there were definitely. There was one that was like what looked like a male cat. It was just called Baby Girl. I'm like, that is somebody's pet right there, and they did not think this through.
Oh no.
Which was even funnier. I'm like,
It's a fun line. Is it someone's pet or is it someone's pet?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, could be a little column A, could be a little column B.
Yeah.
But I know, good stuff.
So I'm glad that you're still having a good time. Yeah. So with that, we'll wrap it up.
Recommendations.
Here we go.
No, that's it.
With that, we'll wrap it up. So Kestrel, how about you tell everybody where we can be found, where they can find you?
Yes, you can find the podcast wherever you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are on Apple Podcasts. We might be on Google Podcasts. I don't know when this episode's going up. Google Podcasts might not exist anymore. But you'll find us, on all the podcast platforms you use generally. We're on Spotify as well. You can find our latest episodes on SoundCloud and iHeartRadio. Should have them all. Alexa, all right, if I do it quietly enough, it doesn't pick it up. We're on Alexa if you tell it to play Fandom Post Radio. And you can just find us on fandompost.com, also on social media. Fandom Post Radio on Twitter and Facebook. Also, just get in contact with us via email, fandompostradio@gmail.com. I think that's about it. I'm on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma. Yeah, that's about it.
I am on socials at HellShakeBrando, and it has been eons, but I will be doing some physical manga reviews for the Fandom Post in the near future, so look forward to those.
Fancy. I am on Blue Sky at SonicBug. You can find all my reviews at fandompost.com. I just finished up Mao Mao and still continuing on with Dungeon Meshi. I just released, I think today, the review for my review of Dungeon Meshi Volume 13 came out. So yeah, don't if you're just watching the anime, don't jump ahead. Don't read my review for Volume 13 of the manga. That'd be stupid. That's like the climactic, volume of the manga. Don't read that. And yeah, I'll probably be reviewing Slime for the spring season, adding that to my review docket. But I'm definitely gonna be watching Spice and Wolf regardless. So
I'm just infinitely bitter that someone else got to Frieren before I opened the dock back in September, August, whenever that was. So I didn't get to review Frieren for the past 6 months.
Who was reviewing Frieren?
Dan, I forget. We have multiple Dans. I can't remember.
One of the Dans was reviewing.
One of the Dans.
One of the Dans.
But whichever one you are, I'll just never let any Dan live that down.
There you go.
Every
good way to cover your bases. Just indiscriminately hate anyone named Dan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Go out and watch Frieren. Just do it. So you won't be disappointed. But until next time, everybody enjoy your anime, enjoy the upcoming season, and be safe.
Bye-bye.
We'll continue.
Yes.